What day is it? Welcome back to Modular Monday. I have some bad news. One of our brothers has fallen. This is Alan. Alan made the mistake of taking the journey from Edinburgh to Glasgow to meet Alex. Now, Alex used to work at the much beloved Rubber Dub and has since set up shop with Signal Sounds, soon to be, I believe, one of the kind of premier Eurorack dealers in the country. The problem was, Alan didn't realise that Alex is a Eurocrack dealer of the highest order. Alan sent me this picture after a recent visit there, along with this video. On behalf of the Modular Monday community, I apologise for our somewhat nefarious influence over what may prove to be a financially disastrous decision for you, Alan. A lot of people have been asking me recently how the album's getting on. Well, I'll answer that in a sec. But first...
Hi Christian, it's been a while since I've been on the channel because we were off getting married and honeymooning, but now we're back. I'm going to be a bit more regular on the show, and I thought I'd start off by just doing a bit of a rig rundown of what I've got currently in the setup and how it's all going to connect, and just like a sort of broad overview of what everything is. Could serve as a good video to jump back to in future to reference when I'm talking about other things in other videos. Also, it's an opportunity for me to introduce the latest addition to the setup, which is the Electron Octatrack Mark II, which is going to form the sort of brains of the setup. Now, this overview isn't going to show how everything really connects properly because I'm still getting some of the cables and still figuring out how the audio is going to route. But let's just jump over and take a look at the system. So starting at the top, we have the Eurorack system. The case is now completely built and the stain is on. There's still some space for some more modules in there, and there's some modules that I may take out. This has the standard, what we call 3U Eurorack, as well as a 1U row at the top here, or a Eurorack tile row, which I'm going to be using mostly for utilities, things like multiples. I've got the outputs over here, I've got the power input here. So this is probably going to be mostly filled with more multiples and some other modulation sources, maybe like some simple LFOs and some manual sort of attenuators and things. And then along the bottom here, we have our standard 3U row. Some new additions to this, we have the Music Thing modular microphone module, which is basically a contact microphone, and it can also take some inputs. I have the Bastel Dynamo. This was another DIY kit, an envelope follower, a really interesting one, which we'll do a future video on. Then we have the Mutable Instruments Platts, which is what we call a macro oscillator. I did a deep dive on this one. I'm sure we can put a link in the video description, but that sounds a little bit like this. And we've got some really nice modelling stuff, as well as some sort of standard oscillator stuff. So that's a really powerful module. It's basically the core of the Eurorack system for me. We have some 2 HP modules, namely the pluck, play, snare, and this space here usually has a kick in it. But that is currently in a different system. Then we have the Ataraxic Iteratus. Let me just turn down the Platts and turn up Ataraxic Iteratus for you. I used that in another video along with the analog rhythm and so on when I was doing a bit of a deep dive on that. Then we have the Pamela's New Workout. This is another one that's sort of the heart of the system. It's a clocked modulation source. So that's for all sorts of LFOs and different modulation sources like envelopes and triggers and all sorts. It's an amazingly powerful module. Did a bit of a deep dive on that one as well. And then we have the Beasttech Amoeba. This is an algorithmic drum sequencer that can send out all sorts of triggers and gates. Honestly, I don't get as much use out of this as I thought I might, so this might end up leaving the system just because it does take up quite a lot of space for what it does. Then we have the Qubit Scanned, which is another really interesting sound source, which can be sort of excited. It's really useful for maybe slightly more percussive sounds or sounds that you want to be a little bit more unpredictable. Next to that, we have the Expert Sleepers Disting. This is the Mark IV. This, along with Pamela's new Workout and Platts, is kind of the third in the sort of trinity of things that make up the heart of most of my patches. This is a real Swiss Army knife module. It can be used for all sorts of things like quantizing CV. It can do digital effects. It can be an oscillator, a filter, anything you like. It's got unbelievably expansive capabilities. Then I have another DIY module here. This was the Erica Synths DIY delay. Really decent digital delay module. And on the right hand side, which I'm using mainly as a summing mixer, is the Bafaco Hex Mix VCA. This is a 6 VCA system. You can use it as a summing mixer, you can use it as a voltage controlled attenuator. And then along the top, I just have some multiples and buffered multiple and the outputs. So that's the Eurorack system. And then along the bottom here, I have now a complete Electron system as far as I'm concerned. So going from right to left, we have the Analog 4, which is a 4-voice analog synth. Capable of some really nice pad sounds, lead sounds, bass sounds, anything. It's an incredibly capable 4-voice synthesizer. It also has 4 configurable CV outputs, and you can use the Eurorack almost as a source for the oscillator, which is what I did in one of my previous videos looking at the Ataraxic Iteratus from Noise Engineering. So this is a really powerful interface between the world of Eurorack and the sort of the rest of the Electron system that I've got here. And then over on the left-hand side, we have the Electron Analog Rhythm, which is a 10-voice drum sampler and also has some sample playback. So it can do sort of great kicks and snares and so on. It can also play back longer, more interesting samples. It's a great sort of drum sequencer, and I was originally using this as my sort of MIDI master and taking the output from the Analog 4 into the rhythm and then on into the computer to record. But now I have the Octatrack here. This is the Octatrack Mark II. You can see they've made some improvements to the hardware compared to the older Mark I Electrons, such as having backlit buttons instead of a separate button and LED, as well as switching out the black and grey for a grey and black colour scheme. They've also improved the screen here from the old backlit LCD to an OLED, which is just a little bit nicer looking. This thing is just generally easier to use in the dark as well, which I think is great for sort of a live environment. But this is a dynamic performance sampler. Now, what does that mean? Well, it has 8 different channels of audio, which can be configured to playback from the compact flash card or playback from recording buffers. It has 4 channels of recording, as well as its own internal recording. So you can sample things, you can resample the output of the box itself, and you can do all sorts of sample mangling. So that could sound like this sort of stuff. Crazy, wacky sounding experimental stuff where I'm doing, powerful effects, mangling and sample triggering, playing back the sample from different points at different speeds and pitches. You can also do more traditional musical playback like this. So as well as having the 8 channels of audio playback, which you can do some sample mangling or more sort of backing track stuff, it also has 8 channels of MIDI sequencing, which you can use for sequencing the other Electron devices here, or I can also use for sampling stuff directly on the Eurorack if I get some sort of MIDI interface on there. And this also serves as a mixer for all of the rest of the devices. So I've got a mixer page where I can mute and unmute and adjust the gain of different parameters of what I'm performing with. So this is going to become really the center of the system. I've still got a few more sort of admin things to do here. For instance, I need to get a couple of MIDI cables so that I can hook this all up in a way that makes sense. At the moment, what I'm thinking is I'll probably take the audio from the Analog 4 and the audio from the Analog Rhythm separately into these 2 inputs so that they can be sampled separately from one another and adjusted, and so I can adjust the levels of them separately as well for a live environment. For a recording environment, I'll probably do something a little bit different. The Octatrack probably won't be the final destination for the audio in a recording context, only because this doesn't have the same multi-channel USB audio that the other Electron devices have, so I wouldn't be able to stem out my music for mixing. So it's great as a sort of brain for the live performance, but there's probably going to be a couple of different ways that this could be configured from an audio standpoint. So I'll probably dive into the Octatrack in a bit more depth in a future video. I haven't even really touched on some of the things that make it really special, such as the crossfader for scene morphing and so on. But for now, all I'll say is it's really sort of a new brain for the system. It has the same great electron sequencer that I've covered in previous videos, and all the things that these other two devices can do really well. And it kind of gels the whole system together into one kind of cohesive performance thing. So that's it for the overview of the system. In the next video, what I might try and do is hook everything up and come up with a short jam just to show how everything interacts, and then maybe do a companion video which breaks down what each of the different devices is doing and how they've been set up. But anyway, for now, back to you.
I don't think I'm speaking out of line to say I'm sure the community is delighted to see you back, Sandy. Congratulations, and really look forward to your future contributions. Also worth noting, if you live or work near the New York area, both Sandy and I will be attending an event in November. Linked below, RSVP if you can. You know, alongside Alan's contribution this morning, if there's anything you want to share with the community, a video snippet or a story of your entry into Eurorack or something that you've discovered, please get in touch with me on the Piano Book email, christian@pianobook.co.uk, or just message me below. I do try and read all of the comments. Oh, it's absolutely miserable here today. So how's the album going? Well, it's not going well, if the truth be known. It is very, very difficult to dedicate the amount of time I want to this new, totally kind of fresh format. So I am struggling. I've been procrastinating behind the need for a few bits of equipment. They're now in place. 3 gorgeous Expert Sleepers Disting Mark IV. But also, I've just bought this new thing, an ES9, which I'm really looking forward to sharing with you because it's making me think slightly differently. I do think that something is very interesting happening with Eurorack and computing, and I'm thinking about recalibrating my system ever so slightly. I'll be using this channel to really show you some progress on that album soon. But the evil lord and grand procrastinator has got the better of me for the time being. Anyway, it's a massive week this week with Spitfire Audio, so I'm going to be cramming my channel full of behind the scenes stuff, and there's all sorts of extraordinary stuff that's going to be coming out. So do subscribe if you haven't done. Ding that bell if you want to be notified the next time I put a video up. And one of those for Sandy's welcome return will be much appreciated. Right, I'm getting out of the rain. See you soon. Miserable.